Structural capital, the war part that stopped the auto industry. A modern car costs around $40,000. It contains steel, glass, rubber, thousands of precision-engineered parts, years of research, millions of dollars in development. Yet in 2021, factories around the world couldn't finish those cars. Not because they were missing an engine, not because they were missing the transmission, not because workers had stopped building them. They were waiting for something smaller than a credit card. A tiny semiconductor chip. Some of those chips cost only a few dollars. So how could one of the world's most advanced industries be stopped by one of its smallest components? This is the story of the global semiconductor shortage. But more importantly, it's the story of a dependency nobody noticed until it disappeared. The factory that never stopped every morning, long before sunrise, trucks rolled through the gates of automobile factories around the world. Inside those trailers were thousands of parts. Steel panels, glass, seats, wiring harnesses, electronic modules. Each component had traveled its own journey before arriving at the assembly line. Some came from the next province, others crossed oceans, yet somehow almost everything arrived at exactly the right place, at exactly the right time. Workers rarely thought about the journey. They didn't need to. The trucks arrived, the parts were unloaded, the robots kept moving. Another production shift began. For decades, that rhythm hardly changed. Modern automobile manufacturing became one of the greatest logistical achievements in history. A single vehicle contains more than 30,000 individual parts. Each one must arrive in sequence. Each one depends on another. If one part arrives too early, it waits. If one part arrives too late, everything waits. That precision wasn't an accident. For decades, manufacturers pursued one goal above all others: efficiency. Factories became faster. Warehouses became smaller. Inventory almost disappeared. Instead of storing months of parts, manufacturers embraced a philosophy known as just-in-time production. Every component would arrive only when it was needed. Nothing would remain on a shelf longer than necessary. The results were extraordinary. Cash flow improved, storage costs fell, factories produced more vehicles using less capital. Investors loved it, business schools praised it, manufacturers around the world copied it. For years, the system looked almost flawless. Almost. Because every highly efficient system quietly depends on assumptions. Some assumptions are obvious, others become invisible because they are never challenged. One assumption quietly supported the entire automotive industry. Tomorrow's truck would arrive, just like today's, just like yesterday's. No one questioned it. There had never been a reason to. The decision that made perfect sense then came 220. Within weeks, the world changed. Factories closed. Cities became quiet. Airports emptied. Consumers postponed major purchases. Across the automotive industry, executives prepared for what many believed would become the deepest recession in decades. Production forecasts were cut. Assembly lines slowed. Some factories stopped altogether. Companies searched for every possible way to conserve cash. One decision seemed almost unavoidable. Orders for semiconductor chips were reduced. Some were canceled completely. The reasoning was simple. Why continue buying electronic components for vehicles that customers might never purchase? Looking at the information available at that moment, the decision made perfect sense. But markets rarely stand still. While automakers were slowing down, another industry was accelerating. Millions of people suddenly began working from home. Students attended school online. Families bought new laptops. Businesses expanded cloud computing. Demand exploded for webcams, networking equipment, gaming consoles, tablets, servers. Every one of those products also depended on semiconductors. Chip manufacturers responded exactly as competitive markets are designed to respond. Production shifted toward customers placing new orders. No conspiracy, No favoritism, simply supply following demand. Every decision was rational. Every company believed it was protecting its own future. None of them realized they were quietly changing the future of an entire industry. Semiconductor manufacturing is unlike almost any other business. Building a modern fabrication plant costs tens of billions of dollars. Construction takes years. The equipment inside is among the most advanced machines ever built. Production schedules are planned months in advance. Capacity cannot suddenly double because demand changes. Once a production slot is assigned, replacing it is extraordinarily difficult. Months later, something unexpected happened. The automotive market recovered far faster than almost anyone had predicted. Customers returned. Dealerships filled again. Factories prepared to restart production. Manufacturers picked up the phone and called their semiconductor suppliers. They expected business to return to normal. Instead, they heard the same answer. The production capacity was gone. Their place in line no longer existed. The chips they needed were already being built for someone else. Factories still had steel. Factories still had engines. Factories still had workers. Soon they would discover that none of those things mattered. The parking lot. At first, almost nothing changed. Factories still had inventory. Assembly lines kept moving. There were enough chips for today's production, maybe tomorrow's, perhaps next week's. No one expected the interruption to last very long. Supply chains recover all the time. Deliveries are delayed. Ports become congested. Factories catch up. This would be no different, or so everyone believed. Then the phone calls began. One supplier could not confirm the next shipment. Another reported unexpected delays. The production manager asked, "Can we buy the chip somewhere else?" The answer was no. Another asked, "Can we redesign the electronics?" Not without months of engineering work. "Can we finish the cars first and install the chips later?" Not if they were expected to pass safety testing. One by one, every simple solution disappeared. Then something remarkable happened. Factories found themselves surrounded by abundance and stopped by scarcity. There was steel, there were engines, there were transmissions, seats had arrived, glass had arrived, paint had arrived, workers had arrived, customers were waiting. Everything the factory needed was there, except one tiny electronic component. One missing chip prevented thousands of other parts from becoming a finished automobile. The cost of the missing chip had never been the problem. Its position inside the system was. Soon, enormous parking lots began filling with brand new vehicles. From a distance, they looked ready to drive. Fresh paint reflected the sunlight. The interiors were complete. The engines had already been tested. The wheels were installed. Everything appeared finished. Almost. Some vehicles were waiting for a single power management chip. Others needed a tiny microcontroller. Some lacked an electronic module no larger than a credit card. Without that final component, the vehicle could not complete testing. It could not pass safety certification. It could not legally be delivered. A $40,000 automobile had become temporarily worthless because of a component that cost only a few dollars. News spread quickly. Photographs of thousands of unfinished vehicles appeared around the world. People asked the same question. How can this happen? How could one of the world's most advanced industries be stopped by something so small? The answer was more complicated than anyone expected. The invisible network manufacturers searched desperately for alternatives. Could another company produce the same chip? Usually not. Modern automotive semiconductors are designed for highly specific tasks. Replacing one often requires redesigning hardware, rewriting software, repeating safety tests, obtaining new regulatory approvals. Even if another manufacturer had available capacity, very few did. Switching suppliers could take months, sometimes longer. The deeper companies investigated, the more surprising the picture became. Automakers depended on parts suppliers. Parts suppliers depended on semiconductor manufacturers. Semiconductor manufacturers depended on specialized fabrication equipment. Equipment manufacturers depended on precision components sourced from around the world. Shipping companies connected every stage. Raw materials crossed continents before becoming finished chips. Finished chips crossed continents again before reaching automobile factories. Every company understood its own business. Very few understood the entire network. For decades, that wasn't a problem. The system was stable. Deliveries were predictable. The hidden complexity remained invisible. Until one small interruption forced everyone to see it. Ford reduced production. General Motors temporarily closed several assembly plants. Even Toyota, whose production system had become a model for manufacturers around the world, eventually announced significant production cuts. Different companies, different management teams, different supply chains, yet remarkably similar outcomes. That was the real clue. The problem did not belong to one company. It belonged to the network they all depended on. The trade-off nobody saw. Looking back, it is tempting to ask a simple question. Why didn't manufacturers keep larger inventories? Why not build extra factories? Why not keep backup suppliers? The answers are surprisingly uncomfortable, because every one of those choices costs money. A warehouse full of parts ties up capital. A second supplier usually charges a higher price. Unused production capacity may sit idle for months. From the perspective of a quarterly earnings report, those decisions appear inefficient. For decades, the automotive industry was rewarded for becoming more efficient, not for becoming more resilient. That distinction matters. Efficiency and resilience are not opposites, but they are not the same objective. Improving one often means sacrificing a little of the other. For many years, efficiency won that trade-off. The semiconductor shortage forced companies to ask a different question. Not, how can we become even more efficient? But, what happens when efficiency has no room for surprise? That question changed the conversation. Around the world, manufacturers began qualifying additional suppliers. Some increased inventories of critical components. Governments announced billions of dollars of investment in domestic semiconductor production. Companies started mapping supply chains further than ever before. Many executives realized they understood their suppliers, but not their suppliers' suppliers. The crisis eventually passed. Production recovered. Factories restarted. The parking lots slowly emptied. Cars finally reached customers. But the system was no longer viewed in the same way. Today's structural capital insight. When people looked at the semiconductor shortage, most saw a missing chip. That was understandable. The chip was visible. The dependency was not. Yet the dependency was the real story. Modern systems rarely fail because their largest components disappear. They struggle when a small dependency quietly becomes indispensable. The stronger and more efficient a system becomes, the easier it is to overlook the assumptions holding everything together. Until one day, reality tests them. That pattern extends far beyond automobiles. It appears in financial markets, power grids, hospitals, cloud computing, artificial intelligence, global shipping, different industries. The same question. What is the one dependency this system cannot afford to lose? Sometimes, that single question tells us more than everything else combined. Because in the end, a system is not defined by its greatest strength. It is defined by the smallest dependency it cannot survive without. Thank you for watching Structural Capital.